Well, in 1913, the Fed is the third central bank in America because every president against central banks. And the Fed is not federal. It has no reserve, not a bank, it's a cartel. And in 19, the Fed, the third one, after starting with President Washington, do not have a 1776. Not only the Fed created in 19, so was the taxman. The Beatles always saying about the taxman. Well, in 1918, an amendment was passed which caused America to be taxed. And almost up to that point, America was a tax-free nation. So what does it tell you? Taxes, hear me out, the dollar, the pound, tax, the scams are going. And that's why 1919, after it was winding down, the world agreed to make the U.S. dollar the reserve currency today. If America promised it backed by gold. So in we promised we'll back it by gold. And then in 1971, President says, oops, we promise. And that allowed money printing to go out of. Here we are today. I have this. I just got The Economist. And it says here, governments have spent $17 on pandemic. Loans and guarantees combined to 6% of the. That's how money was last year. 16% of the global GDP. Now, if it calls you to run out and buy gold and silver, I don't know what, they now have to printing. That's why. And the most important thing for people who are listening, if you're watching the silver market, the reason I bring this magazine is because like this article says, well, I'm watching, you watch who's spending. And I'll say it again. Governments have spent $17 trillion on the pandemic, 16% of the GDP. That's who I'm watching. I'm just watching. I said, holy mackerel. Do you know what I mean? What are you watching? I'm watching the government. I never have. So, I mean, they're so incompetent. I just can't, Jim Records and I are good. And he's an insider. And he talks about how incompetent. They're like Marx, highly incompetent. That would buy more today, not next. Just want as many as you can get now. How many ounces? Not what. I'd say gold. This year, 5 gold.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Well, it's a derivative. Stock is a derivative. I'll give it a simple definition of derivative. If I have an orange and I cut the orange in half and gold are not derivative. But understand that. That's why I call it God's and I call it blockchain because it's outside the Fed and outside the Treasury, outside the Bank of, it's outside the 2 years, banks' debt was all the Fed and the Bank of England houses print. And as long as people will accept this, but the moment one day someone says, oh my God, I'm 10 billion, but it's not worth, this couldn't buy me, I was in Zimbabwe, this wouldn't buy me an egg, correct. But I go to Africa, I love Africa, I just love it, rich continent. But anyway, what's all academic left, I don't know, their heads are up in it. And so the Fed doing all these projections, but they're not attached to reality. And that's why that little Vietnam in 1970 made up. And I ask all you now, if I said, I'll just say it all. They want to discuss the Fed, the Bank of International, the BIS. And I don't know. I just want, how many ounces you got? What's your entry price? Like Bitcoin, my entry prices. So I was a little late, but I caught them, and it's about 55,000. I don't know anything. I don't like to discuss much. Once I see that movement going, and like I'm talking about them, and as a miner, I know gold, and a lot of the gold now found is in countries that hate them. So I don't what. So let me say, it's just ancient, like standing in the Andes. There's little holes drilled up the mountain. Why were the Inca digging for gold? Nobody told them. There was internet. There was no. Why were the Mongolian? And it comes out later this month in December 21. But I was to Marx. Like I said, he died in London. And Marx reminded me of my poor dad. Highly educated. And Marx hated. He never understood why they're. So that's why I have my rich dad. Poor dad, like Marx. Very highly educated guy who was broke. And I'd rather be like my rich dad. And my best friends. He taught me to be a capitalist. Now, the benefit I had, I went to military in New York. And we had to study Marx, Lenin, Stalin, Mao. And all of these guys, gold, an important part of that. It's not how much, but how many ounces. And silver today is $25. I was paying $48. Just bargain. In fact, I've just talked myself into running to buy some.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race, you're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Markus Dan, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Markus Dan.